Hi, my name's Claire Owen, and today we're going to look at the structure and funding in sport. Funding for sports. There are three main avenues: the public funds, the government grants and lottery funding, private funds, for example, business sponsorship, and our voluntary funds, including donations, fundraising activities, and our national governing bodies or sports council support. Now, if we look at the sports development continuum, what you'll see is there are four distinct areas. Funding can be given at any stage within that area, but who gives the funding may differ according to how it is being distributed. So first of all, the foundation phase, that blue colour at the bottom, is our biggest area. Everybody is being introduced to physical activity through school PE, recreational play. They'll be at play schemes. There's no commitment, but they just take part in school in part of the national curriculum. If this is done properly and successfully, they will then go on to participate in regular club or school level sport. They may become competitive. They are generally committed to the activity and they might not want to progress further, but if they do, if they have been spotted for potential, then they will maybe move to county or regional level. They may have been selected in a talent development programme, or they have just gone to further their development through clubs. Once we hit that county and regional level, it does become competitive, and as a result, we will then take the top cream of the crop to the elite level. These are the ones who become our professional performers. They're national and international players, and they will be playing sport virtually full time. So how did they get there, and who is responsible? So we have the Department for Culture, Media and Sport. The Department for Culture, Media and Sport have objectives which are defined in a single departmental plan. So the first part of that plan is that they are global. They are driving international trade. They want to attract investment into the UK and promote shared values around the world. They want to promote UK as a great place to live, work and visit. They want to grow as an economy. They want to show us being creative, innovative, and an economy that works for everyone. They're looking to make sure that we have digital connectivity. We're going to drive the UK's connectivity, the telecommunications, and the digital sectors. Now, the thing that we're mostly concerned with is our participation. So here in the sports area, we are looking to maximise social action, improve our cultural, sporting, and physical activity participation, getting more people more active more often. It's so important too that we promote ourselves as a safe and fair and informed society. We're looking at Brexit now, so hopefully part of the DCMS, the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, is to help deliver a successful outcome to Brexit and make the transition easy. And then we need to be shown to be agile and efficient, ensuring that the department is fit for the future with the right skills, that we have the culture and connections to realise our vision and live our values as one Department for Culture, Media and Sport. So they are our overarching organisation that we're responsible to ensure that we achieve these goals. In 2018-19, the Department of Culture and Media and Sport allocated £219 million to sport. This slide has been taken from the department's final review 2019, showing that they achieved some of their aims and also set out what they are planning to achieve in the next few years. So as you can see on the right hand side of the slide, they are looking to host major events. So 2021, all being well, London will host 7 games of the UEFA Men's European Championships, including the semi-finals and the final. 2021, they're also aiming to host the Men's and Women's Wheelchair Rugby League World Cup. And in 2022, England will host the UEFA World Euro Championships. And in 2022, probably the biggest event that we're looking for in the coming future is that Birmingham is going to host the Commonwealth Games in 2022. Now, the DCMS have pledged that they will fund 75% of the cost for Birmingham to host the Commonwealth Games, and we're looking to put that investment into Birmingham and the local areas. So it's really important that we work together to actually achieve our goals. Now, as you can see, the money that they've had over the previous years have been up to £480 million. So from that money, it's been given to UK Anti-Doping, UK Sport, the Birmingham Organising Committee for the 2022 Commonwealth Games. So they've already had £26 million. It's gone to the Sports Ground Safety Authority, 2 million, and Sport England as 99 million. Now, Sport England had distributed that money in a variety of different ways, which we're going to talk about as we progress. So UK Sport. Who are UK Sport? UK Sport are in charge of allocating funding to the elite, to those people that are at the top of the pyramid. Okay, their focus is on getting world-class success, providing funding dependent on the potential of your ability to medal at the next Olympics. So as an example, if you and your sport are likely to medal in the next Olympics, you'll be on the highest tier of funding to ensure you get all the money and support required to get that medal. So the tiers are as follows. First of all, there's the podium. So this is investment to athletes and teams with a realistic chance of an Olympic or Paralympic podium position. The next team down, podium potential. So those people and those teams that have got a realistic chance of an Olympic or Paralympic position within 4 to 8 years. And then finally our progression. So these investment goes to teams and athletes targeting the podium within 12 years. Sport Wales' main role is to focus on the development of both grassroots and sport player identification. So they're going to work with UK Sport in order to channel their athletes to the top of that pyramid. World-class success is vital. Now, if they do not achieve their world-class success, what happens to the teams, the national governing bodies, is that their funding may be reduced, if not cut. So it has to prove that they are getting the athletes and the medals that we're hoping for. There will be stages throughout this 4-year programme that will help them to identify whether they're on target or not. But if they do not get it, unfortunately, they will start to lose their funding. So we have our sports home nation, so our sports councils, and these guys are devolved of the government. They are responsible for trying to implement the strategies in their own fit way. So Sport Wales, we'll talk about in particular, was established by Royal Charter on the 4th of February 1972. Its objective was to foster the knowledge and practice of sport and physical recreation among the public at large in Wales. The organisation is a Welsh Government-sponsored body receiving annual grant in aid as well as additional income generated from its own core business activities. They make their decisions which are devolved of the government, meaning that they can make their own decisions on how best to implement those strategies. In addition, Sport Wales is responsible for the distribution of the National Lottery funds to both the elite and the grassroots sport in Wales. The distribution of funds is via the governing bodies and the local authority sport development teams. So we have a lot of partners working together to ensure that money is targeted in the right place. If we don't support the grassroots, so that large base of the pyramid, unfortunately, we will reduce our chances of having elite sport at the top. And as you can see, Sport England, Sport Scotland and Sport Northern Ireland all have a similar devolved body which is responsible for implementing the strategies. Now, funding for national governing bodies, as I already said, will depend heavily on their member numbers. Okay, so what they do is they sell memberships, which I'm sure most of you are either a member of the FA. You'll usually do this in order to get your insurances. So you could be a member of the FA, you could be a member of the Welsh Netball Association, you could be a member of the Welsh Squash Association, Welsh Triathlon, as you can see there's a few here, Basketball Wales, Snow Sport Cymru, all of these have governing bodies, and these governing bodies will sell you membership. With your membership you will get insurances, so that is how they tie you in. A year's membership with Welsh Athletics for an adult is £30, £10 for children, that includes your insurances. If you are a large organisation and you are an Olympic sport who's doing particularly well, swimming, cycling to name but two, you will be laughing. You have a lot of money coming your way in membership and also in your potential to win medals. So as a result, you have got lots of development officers, lots of money going into the pot in order to support your elite athletes, a lot of money going in to support your grassroots athletes, so opportunities for them to take part. There will be grants available to your clubs. So it's really, really important that your sport does well. However, if your sport is not an Olympic sport, the funds available are limited. Okay, so you need to think about how can you encourage more. The only way we can encourage more is through the media. The sports that are getting all the attention in the media are those that are doing well, those that are getting the medals. So it's a bit of a catch-22 situation. The popular sports become more popular because they get the media coverage and the medals and the monies, and the minority sports, unfortunately, stay the minority sports or possibly even fall into decline. So it's so important that money is available to all the governing bodies. We can obtain funding from other sources. We don't just have to get it from lottery or from perhaps the government on grants. We can also get it from private funds. So, for example, a lot of the elite athletes will get sponsorship. So here's Roger Federer, the 20-time Grand Slam winner. He was synonymous with the Nike brand. For decades, Federer had been the beneficiary of Nike's biggest sponsorship deals. But as Federer stepped out onto centre court at Wimbledon in 2019, he was decked out by the Japanese designer Uniqlo. This new deal is potentially worth $300 million over the next 10 years, which surpasses his 20-year deal with Nike that earned Federer in the ballpark range of $150 million and making it one of the biggest endorsement deals of all time. So the money that can be obtained by professional athletes is phenomenal through sponsorship. Grassroots athletes, those showing potential, can also obtain sponsorship, but obviously the amount of money that they'll be able to bring in will be far less than the elites. Some of the other athletes that have got major sponsors. So what I want you to do on a piece of paper is write down who these athletes are and who their sponsors are. Press pause on your video now until you've sussed out who they all are. You can also get sponsorship for sports in grassroots. So people such as Lidl's or McDonald's have sponsored a lot of the festivals and events for children of primary school age. Lidl's sponsorship deal was stated by the FA to be able to develop sporting opportunities for over a million children. So that's quite impressive. And what they get out of this, what do they get out of this? Well, they get publicity, they get recognition, and they're giving something back to the community. A lot of these organisations, if they're building a large shopping centre or they're bringing a McDonald's to the area, they have written in their clauses that they will give back to the local community. You might find that they're not just going to sponsor children's events, they're going to sponsor events that are just for anybody who wants to take part. So you've got the Virgin London Marathon open every year. It is open to both elite and fun runners. They do charge entry fees, so they bring in money through that, but they also have major sponsors. So for example, the London Marathon is the Virgin London Marathon. In the 1980s, it was the Flora London Marathon. Of late, we have the Prudential Ride London, and as you can see from that, it's advertising that it wants any age, any wheels, any distance. So anybody who can ride a bike is invited to come along to this. Again, they are taking entry fees, but they're looking to get those major sponsors. For the sponsors, as we said, it's good PR. And finally, we're going to look at voluntary third sector funding. This is where it gets a little bit more complicated, but athletes raise the initial funding as they progress through the pyramid. Funding will be found through different and other means. So we're going to start off at grassroots. We may be able to raise funds. Maybe an athlete needs to have money to go to a competition or to buy a competition leotard if they're a gymnast, for example. And those can cost anything up to £300, £400. So perhaps we can look at how can we get money to sponsor our team, to raise money for our team, not so much sponsorship. But first of all, we can look at getting donations. So can we get donations from the local people? We're going to use our membership money and our subscriptions. So how much are people paying every week to come to the club? And all of you will be paying something. And we can fundraise. So you can put on events such as quiz nights, sponsored walks, whatever it might be. But there are ways that individuals and individual clubs can raise those funds. We can look to our national governing bodies. These are within that voluntary third sector, mostly because they are now quangos. A quango is a non-governmental organisation. It does receive some funding from the government, but they do not have any say over their management or how they are to complete their strategies. So they're within the third party sector and they derive their funding from the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, sponsorship and grant schemes. They enable clubs to develop through education for coaches, education for clubs and education for players. They also direct them to sources of funding to support the club and player development. So they're basically like an advice centre. So our national governing bodies, although they didn't give us money directly, they can send us in the right direction in order to get the money. They will help with sources of funding. They will help with coach education. And as a result, you will be able to get some funding. So depending on where you are in that participation pyramid will depend on where you go to. So in summary, the Department for Culture, Media and Sport allocates funds to support the participation of sports and physical activity to its devolved partners. So initially, we're talking about the elite funding. We're going to go from the top down. So Tier 1, those are our professional sports people. They're already there. They are performing. They are getting medals. We know that they have that potential in the next 4 years to get us some gold medals. Then, as we move down the tiers, your podium potential may come in at intercollegiate sport competition. So we're talking our national level, not necessarily international at this point, and the money will be coming in there. And at a little bit lower down are progression. So we're looking at a 12-year plan. So we need to be getting young individuals on that track early. So 12 years, we are hoping that those people are going to have the potential to give us those medals. It's a lot of investment over a lot of time. The tiers will be relevant to the amount of money that is coming into that individual. So Tier 1, obviously the highest funded, Tier 2, medium, and Tier 3, a lower level of funding. Now, to identify that talent and target it in the right direction, we're now going to look to our sports councils and our national governing bodies. They're the ones who are going to identify the individuals and start them on that pathway to performance. Our clubs are going to be gaining money from memberships and subscriptions, and initially, children and young people are going to be experiencing sport through the Department for Education. So there'll be public funds put into that, as well as voluntary and possibly some sponsorship deals. Now, sponsorship is available at all levels of the pyramid. But as you can see from the examples we gave earlier, the value of the deal will depend on where you are on that pyramid. If you're a professional sports person, we are talking $1 million deals. If you're at the grassroots level, you may just get your kit sponsored by a local haulage firm or McDonald's or whatever company is close to you that would be happy to develop their public relations in your community. So individuals are more likely to be sponsored towards that top end, with clubs and events being sponsored to enhance the public status of the sponsors, more at the grassroots and participation end of the pyramid. We looked at events such as the London Marathon and Ride London, but there are far more events taking place that have smaller, more local sponsorship. So we're going to move on to the task you have got to do for the assignment. So looking at this pyramid and looking at where the money comes from and how it's allocated. So I want you to explain the player pathway model and provide an example from one sport. Don't overthink it, just work it through the pyramid and explain how it goes. I also want you to choose one sport to investigate how it's funded from grassroots to elite level. Again, use that sports participation continuum, which is the pyramid. Think back to the organisations where they're getting the money from, such as UK Sport, and look at their roles. Use that continuum to show how the funding has got to the sports that you have chosen and taken somebody or taken that club to the elite level. Any questions, please let me know. Thank you for listening.